progress we've made, I can say tonight that we are on track to complete all of America's military objectives shortly, very shortly. We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong. In the meantime, discussions are ongoing. Regime change was not our goal. We never said regime change, but regime change has occurred because of all of their original leaders' death. They're all dead. The new group is less radical and much more reasonable. Yet if during this period of time no deal is made, we have our eyes on key targets. If there is no deal, we are going to hit each and every one of their electric generating plants very hard and probably simultaneously. We have not hit their oil, even though that's the easiest target of all, because it would not give them even a small chance of survival or rebuilding. But we could hit it, and it would be gone.
So you saw that. The robot dog advanced with certainty, not just as a single organism, but it had precision, not like a scattered machine. I mean, this AI technology, this warfare technology, and that was all from China. And so you can imagine if this issue were to escalate into true global war that pulls in a China or a Russia, how detrimental this would be for the US, how detrimental this would be for Canada, how detrimental it would be for most of the earth, quite frankly, because now we are in the age of technology where you don't need a whole army of millions and millions of humans if you have a robot dog and a drone to help you to take out targets.
Yeah. And we just saw the President Trump's wife, what's her name?
Melania.
Yeah, Melania. She just brought out the robot, and that's just something. So that this should tell you, like, okay, AI is important to governments because they can use this technology to do less work. Of course, it's cheaper than building a whole airplane and missiles and things like that. You can just put up a drone for a couple thousand, or of course I'm pretty sure the robot dog, but just from what they were trying to sell, the one robot that can come in your house and help you clean this. Yeah, Neo. I think it was like 20,000 or 50,000 or something.
I don't know.
It was something like that.
I think it's 20,000, not 50,000.
Yeah, $20,000. So I'm pretty sure the robot dog is not that expensive. So this technology is starting to look crazy. That's wild. That's wild.
Yes, and what we are witnessing now is something that's far more consequential than it looks. War is no longer about who shows up to the battlefield. It's not about who has hesitation. This is not science fiction. This is literally infrastructure. Because what China just demonstrated is that they have coordinated drone and robotic exercises, not simple technological advancement. This is beyond the technology that even a lot of America has. Now, America won't come out and tell you that, but if you were to start looking into the technology in China, you would quite frankly be extremely shocked. And listen, these machines do not fatigue. They do not tire out. They're probably bulletproof and they probably just keep going. So human lives, the army and the military of the Chinese people who's going in or practicing these operations knows that they will be able to execute certain operations without any issues because they have the robot dog chauffeur protecting them throughout wherever they go, showing them the territory, which of course is also connected to the Chinese satellites that are up in the sky, the Chinese drone that's up in the sky. And so this is why it's so important that Americans at this time really count the cost and see, okay, is America a place that I would want to be in world war? Because you become target practice. And the robot dog, I'm just saying, I would not want to be target practice for that robot dog. And get this, the United States has not been quite idle either. They have defense systems, research labs, private sector partnerships have been building similar capabilities over the years that we just don't know what's available. Think about Venezuela and how they were able to execute that attack. If you're not someone that has been looking into some of these documentaries and military shows, you may want to do that so that you're aware of this technology that these different sides of the world are using. And others are adopting and developing more quietly. It's not just about technology. It's about this normalization of military technology, of an open AI going into the government, of these different AI systems going into the government and helping military strategy. Because we are no longer shocked to see machines operating in roles that once required human judgment. Like they have AI judging whether someone is going to be nuked or not. Judging whether they are going to, like President Donald Trump said, he said these are going to be the worst 2 weeks of the war coming up and then it's going to end. So they have AIs that are in there telling the US government, hey, this is where you can bomb. This is the havoc that it's going to cause, but you're going to come out and you're going to come out as a winner. That's probably what it's saying to it, okay? And this is where the conversation stretches beyond war and into something that's much more personal, more strategic, more enduring. You're probably wondering, where should I go when these systems start to fail? Where do I go to be safe in these times? If that's the question you're asking, this is your official invitation to the state of the diaspora. And I had to come on here and say it because we are like 48 hours out from the expiration of registration, okay? We have been so busy, especially him, talking to clients that I'm like, oh, we forgot to mention the state of diaspora is already at 75% capacity. Now you will be meeting with 11 other expat entrepreneurs, retirees, digital nomads in a Zoom format so that we can go over an intensive curriculum, the 19th edition of the State of the Diaspora, where we show you the safe places in Africa, a Seychelles, a Botswana, a Rwanda, a Mauritius, potentially a Kenya or a Madagascar. These are our focus areas so that you can maneuver in these times and come out on top with a legacy that's international for your family and beyond, okay? So if you want your ticket, it's $100, link in the description. But again, the expiration to sign up is closing very quickly because we begin this Sunday, okay? Literally this Sunday. It's already April. So where can you build something that is not entirely dependent on centralized control? These are not fear-based questions. These are strategic ones for your African relocation, if that's something that you're looking into. And this is where the continent of Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa, especially Southern Africa, and the Mascarene Islands come into play. Nations with emerging economies, with new infrastructure, with more stable infrastructure than maybe a West Africa or a East Africa. You come to Southern Africa and systems just function. Even on some of the islands, the infrastructure and the economy and the way that they build and the way that they do business and the residencies that they have set up for people like you can be of a true advantage.
Yeah, and that's the name of the game. You have to, when you come here, you don't want to go too far back in time, because that's where a lot of problems and a lot of feelings will get involved. You're like, hey man, I came over here and they don't even have this, or the electricity goes out every day pretty much for a couple hours, and the internet is not solid, so I can't work online and things like that. This is what we soon noticed when we moved here to Mauritius. Mauritius is just a little bit different from other African countries, especially the African country that we came from was Tanzania. The internet wasn't as good here or in Tanzania as here in Mauritius, same as the internet. We barely have problems here with our internet, and if we do, they're pretty much updating or upgrading the lines around the neighborhood to make sure that the electricity is solid and things. So these things does matter when it comes down to choosing the right place. And we always tell people, like, that's probably your biggest advantage when you first come to Africa. Choosing the right country, and of course, the right residency. Well, that definitely comes with the right country. If you choose the right country, you will understand the residency process will be a little bit smoother. That's something that I was just talking to one of our clients in a mature adult intensive last night about. Okay, she was very interested in Rwanda, and I gave her one of our contacts here in Mauritius, but used to visit Rwanda for 4 years, back and forth.
Yeah.
And he chose Mauritius because the infrastructure and system behind immigration and things like that is just a little bit smoother.
Yeah.
He said he loves Rwanda, no problem, but when it came down to applying for the retirement, you know, Mauritius just was a little bit smoother, quicker, and, you know, straightforward. They're very professional. So yeah, these things does matter. I'll say that's the biggest thing that I tell people. Like, you don't want to get somewhere and then you have to go to immigration for a day, and then they say, okay, give me 1 second, and you wait for 4 hours, and then they close. So that means that you have to come back the next day. So little things like that, it does happen. But when you go to a country that is pretty solid, it's just a little bit easier.
Yeah,
So
for
that's
sure.
very important. Yeah.
Yeah, because this is not about escape. This is about positioning. Because at the end of the day, if war has changed overnight, as the footage suggests, then the second order effects will not be limited to just battlefields. They will ripple through economies, travel, digital infrastructure, and governments. And those ripples will not move at the speed of those old ripples in the 1920s and the 1940s. What you are watching is not the end of one country or the rise in another in a simple sense, but instead it's the transition from the old world where everything was manual, maybe slightly automated, to the new world where everything is super surveillance AI technology, where power is embedded and instantaneous. And in that world, the advantage does not always belong to the loudest player on the stage. This is why we choose quiet countries that are safe, not popular countries that almost can just get forgotten about. Because if you're forgotten about, you're safe. But if you are super popular, you're target practice, you're an enemy of this enemy, then that's where it gets dangerous before 2030. Sometimes peace belongs to those who saw the shift early and just moved quietly behind the scenes, like our clients have been for a multitude of years. So no, the world is not over, but it's different. And the people who recognize this difference early will adjust their strategies, not in panic, but in clarity. They will experience this moment that's not necessarily a collapse, but a reorganization of alliances, generational wealth, generational peace, and stability. A signal is coming for you to think deeper, to build differently, and to choose your place in the world, not by habit, not by what your ancestors did before, but by design. Shalom, shalom. We'll see you in the next video.
Shalom, family.